Well, what a weekend of rugby it has been. There's been some fantastic games across the world. There's lots to talk about, and I'm going to talk about them in a series of videos right here on my channel, Inside Rugby with Mark. So please stick around and listen to what I've got to say, but more importantly, give me your opinion on things as well. So in this video, I'm going to talk and give my reaction to that game between the New Zealand All Blacks and England that was played at Forsyth Bar Stadium in Dunedin yesterday, and give you my thoughts and opinions around that game. So let's get into it. G'day everyone, and welcome to Inside Rugby with Mark. If you haven't been here before, my name is Mark. I'm a Kiwi rugby fan living here in beautiful Cancun, Mexico. Yes, the same Cancun that got hit over the weekend by Hurricane Beryl. And pleased to report everything is okay here. No loss of life, which is the most important thing. All the damage can be repaired. And I want to send out a quick hello to everybody in southern Texas that might be watching this video today. You're about to experiencing Hurricane Beryl, so please take precautions and get ready. There's no laughing matter around a hurricane, that's for sure. Now let's get on talking about rugby, and as a Kiwi rugby fan, I love talking about the All Blacks, of course, and I love talking about rugby in general because at the moment across world rugby, I think we've got such a competitive landscape and some of the top teams are so closely matched, and I think that's what makes it very, very exciting, and we've seen that already across this weekend. Now the All Blacks were playing England in Dunedin, and the factor about this was that it was under the roof at Forsyth Bar Stadium, so the track was nice and hard and dry and fast, and a lot of people say, well, that suited the All Blacks. I think it also suited England as well to some point of the conversation. Now I had expected a lot of this England team because I think they've been playing very well, and unlike the All Blacks, they've had about 6 games more or less together to be able to get this development going, get their combinations working together, but also more importantly, I think, build some confidence and momentum. And that's exactly what this England team came into this test match against New Zealand with, a lot of confidence and a lot of momentum. That game against Japan just sharpened them up a little bit more, I thought, and gave them that self-belief that they can go to New Zealand and really take on the New Zealand All Blacks, and that's exactly what happened in Dunedin. And then looking at the All Blacks going into this game, they have a new head coach and quite a few new coaches in their system. They'd been together for a total of 10 days leading up to this first game. And Razor Robertson, well, he was put into the fire, wasn't he, in terms of coaching an international team of this level and really seeing what international test rugby is all about. So I thought that both teams are coming in with different degrees of preparation, and I think that's a big thing in any team leading into a series of rugby games. So the game got underway, and it was pretty obvious from the get-go that England were here to compete. They were very fierce and intense. They obviously were up for this game. Most teams that play the All Blacks are up for it. They play their best game usually against the All Blacks. But this England team is different. They're very, very good. They know the game plan that they want to play. And the most important thing I think for England at the moment is they've got players that can execute the plan. A lot of talk before this game started about how long it had been since England had won a game in New Zealand, and I think a lot of that stuff really just helps the visitors get more prepared for the game and more determined. It gives them motivation to change history and to make history. So I don't read too much into that stuff. I think it's all about what happens on the day. And we've seen that across the world of rugby recently, haven't we? We've seen how teams can turn up and play extremely well. And I think you've got to look at the game that's in front of you, and that's what England did yesterday. They surely looked at what they had to do to try and beat the All Blacks. And there was going to be some key points that I was looking out for, and particularly the back three and how they matched up against each other, but also the set pieces and how the two sets of locks went against each other. That's something that I was looking out for. And that early part of the game, it was pretty even Stevens. I thought the All Blacks were trying to do too much too soon. They hadn't got any level of confidence or domination over the England team. And I thought when they started to run the ball, I saw the whole ethos of Super Rugby starting to come out, and I didn't see Test match rugby from the All Blacks at that particular point. And there is a huge difference, of course, between Super Rugby and that level of rugby versus going into the test environment, particularly against a team like England. So I think the All Blacks made some mistakes in that early part of the game where they didn't go to looking after the ball as much, and they tried to run the ball and show that widespread expansive game too soon in the game. And I think that's one of the lessons that will come out of this game for Robertson and the crew. Now, on the other hand, for England, I thought they started off really well. They had to guard against the All Blacks taking off and scoring 15 or 20 points in the early part of that game, and they did that extremely well. Now, just talking about that first part of the game, what I loved about what England were doing was they were using their rush defence to really confuse the All Blacks into making rush decisions. And I think that's where, for me, I saw one of the first differences in this All Black team. And you've got to remember, there's no Richie Mo'unga there, and you could see yesterday how important Richie Mo'unga was to this team, because Damian McKenzie, as much as many people think he's absolutely brilliant, I think he's an extremely good rugby player. He hasn't played a lot in that All Black starting 15 in the number 10 jersey, and it showed yesterday because he was playing his super rugby style, and he was getting caught a lot of the times having to make very quick decisions. And I asked myself, what would Richie Mo'unga do in those particular moments? And there was one case in particular where McKenzie just threw a wide pass, got caught out in defence, and I thought Mo'unga would have run the ball into the line at that particular time. So just the different nuances from these different players that we're seeing who haven't played in these positions before. And again, it's no slight on Damian McKenzie, he's a fantastic rugby player. But starting in the 10 jersey for the All Blacks with all that pressure on him, and not having that most recent experience of doing so at that level against a team like England. So huge credit to England here, because their back three of Underhill, Chandler Cunningham Smith, and also Ben Earl could see that opportunity, and they were getting through on both Perenara and on Damian McKenzie early on. So when the likes of Ioane got the ball and Geordie Barrett out the back, they were under pressure. They weren't able to make really good running lines across the gain line, and they were getting caught on many occasions from the English inside backs as well. So a really good strategy from England to start the game, and I think this played an important part of the game because it didn't let the All Blacks get out to that big early lead. The fact that it took the All Blacks 15 minutes to score a try in this game, I think, is something pretty important to remember, because normally we see the All Blacks strike a lot earlier than that, and by the time Sevu Reece had got over for that try, we had seen the English defence really imposing themselves on the All Blacks. What's really interesting in these games for me as well is the players that are going to have a really good game, they usually tend to show themselves early in the game, and I saw the two New Zealand wingers in particularly starting off very well in this game. Mark Talia, I thought, was absolutely brilliant from the get-go. He was hungry as ever, looking for the ball on a lot of occasions, and when he did get the ball, he was making a lot of decisive little breaks. They weren't huge breaks down the field, but he was getting through the gain line and getting the ball back for next phase of play. And I think that's what Scott Razor Robertson loves so much about Mark Talia, as he brings that energy from the wing, and I think he did a very good job. On the England side, we started to see them playing very big in the first 15 minutes as well, and I've got to give a lot of credit to Martin and Atoje at lock, because they were doing very well in the set piece, and they were giving England the platform where they were able to get the ball out and start moving it. So now, one thing I noted as that first half went on was the English defence was very good. So we saw Ollie Lawrence in particular do some very big hits on his opponents, but also Henry Slade, and the two wingers for England were very good in making sure the New Zealand wingers and the New Zealand backline weren't getting too much distance gained. So the All Blacks were having trouble. They were doing a lot of lateral running, and they weren't getting through the gain line on a lot of occasions, and I thought this was starting to give them a lot of frustration. And being their first game together, you could just see that there was communication issues they were still trying to work out. Scott Barrett's not a leader that does a lot of talking, so you could see at different times when the game was stopping that we saw Adi Savir in there doing a lot of talking for the All Blacks. We got to the 18th minute mark of the game, and a big issue happened there for England. We saw Joe Marler coming off the field and young Baxter coming on, and it was going to be very important for England to see how they were going to handle this change. Of course, there was some talk before the game, from myself included, that we thought the All Blacks were going to have some domination in the scrummaging. Well, that didn't happen in the early part of that game, and when Marler came off, Baxter came on, and he acquitted himself very well indeed. I was impressed with the young guy. I think he's 21 or 22 years old, looks about 17, but he did a very good job for such a young guy coming on and holding up to these very experienced All Black front row. So after the All Blacks scored that first try, it was going to be interesting to see whether they could build a lead, and that wasn't the case. England came straight back, and just 3 minutes later, Itoje scored a good try for England after they put a lot of pressure on down in the All Blacks 22. Rolling Moors, Itoje got the pick and go, and he went over for a good try to England. So that was a very, very good start for England to keep pace with the All Blacks on the scoreboard. So I thought that was really important in the first 20 minutes of the game. So a converted try to England, but we saw the All Blacks hit back straight away. A few minutes later, we saw Perifera set up Adi Savia that went over for a good try, and the All Blacks were back in front at that point of the game. So it was a bit of a seesawing, a try apiece, and then the All Blacks coming back with their second early in the first 25 minutes. Damien McKenzie didn't have his kicking boots on in the early part of the game and missed the conversion, so the All Blacks were out to 10 points to 7 after that try from Adi Savia. And then a few minutes later we saw Mark Talia make a fantastic break, got about 40 metres I should say, through the middle of the Englishman. And again, this is the danger that Talia brings to any game, and he just sliced his way up, didn't quite make a break to get through to the line, and didn't have enough support on hand as well. So I'm thinking that'll be something else that Razor Robertson brings up at the debrief this week, that the support play in different stages of the game for the All Blacks was lacking a little bit as well. Now, just a minute or so before half-time, we saw a very bad and sad thing happen to one of the All Blacks. We saw TJ Perenara get crushed by Scott Barrett, an incident that happened at a breakdown. And unfortunately for Perenara, he got his leg stuck under Scott Barrett as he was falling to the ground, and it twisted really badly Perenara's leg and knee, and he made it through to half-time, but he wasn't looking very good, and in fact he didn't come on for the second half. So that was a real blow to Perenara. My heart sunk for the guy. He's gone through that amazingly great comeback from his Achilles injury that could have ended his career, made it back into the All Blacks again, played very well for the Hurricanes throughout the Super Rugby season, and then he had the unfortunate incident of this happening and having to go off the field of play. Now for the rest of the first half, it was a bit of an arm wrestle. Again, the All Blacks weren't able to break clear. The English defence was very good, and England started to build momentum into this game, I felt, and before half time we saw them giving it a real go. They earned themselves a penalty, they got the score back to 10-all, and that's what we went to half time with. So I think England, Steve Borthwick and the team would have been really, really happy going to half time at 10-all. They got the All Blacks on their own patch. They were playing it really, really well into the game. Their defence was working. The All Blacks looked rusty, or not even rusty. They were looking at their new combinations trying to come together that weren't really working, and they were trying to play their way into the game by playing some expansive rugby, but they hadn't dominated or weren't dominating the set piece, and I think that's where things were getting difficult for the All Blacks. I think Scott Robertson would have said, let's play territory, boys. We're trying to run the ball from too deep in our own territory. Let's get the ball down the other end. Let's try and put pressure on the English players to bring the ball out from their own 22, and let's play the game down in their half. So I think that would have been the message that Scott Robertson would have said to his team at half time. So early in the second half, we saw England get a penalty opportunity. Marcus Smith missed that one, so points were slipping by. It was an opportunity for England to get into the lead at that time and put a little bit of pressure on. But England kept playing really, really well, and it wasn't long. In fact, it was 7 minutes into the second half before we got a try from England. It was a great try when the ball came out to Fei Wabasso, and he went over for England. They really broke open the All Black defence out wide, and a lovely piece of play from England, and they went back into the lead of this game. That I didn't enjoy during this game and other games that I've watched this weekend is the crowd reaction to the opposition kicker. It's been horrendous, and the All Black fans were disgraceful in the way that they were treating Marcus Smith when he was taking kicks during this game, and I hope this is something that gets looked at, because it's just really, really unsportsmanlike. And I was embarrassed that the Kiwi crowd was making such a racket when Marcus Smith tried to convert the try of Wabasso, and he was unfortunate in that situation. So at that time, England were out to 15 points to 10. They had the lead. There was still 30 odd minutes left in this game, so plenty of time for the All Blacks to come back. For the next 5 minutes, the play continued. A little bit of a chess game going on. It was very tight, intense rugby. In fact, it was violent chess, if there's such a thing. there were some huge hits going on from the English on the All Blacks, and they just weren't able to get any momentum. So this was going to come down to a tight finish. It was going to come down to who was going to be able to score some penalties, I thought. And in the 52nd minute of the game, the All Blacks got another penalty opportunity, not releasing the ball from England, and D-Mac got up and got this one over. So we were back to 15 points to 13 in favour of England at that stage, and there was 28 minutes left in the game. So still plenty of time for either team to win this game, but you could tell the intensity was ratcheting up as both teams were starting to worry more about the win of the game. Both teams had made a number of changes by this stage. We'd seen Curry come on for England, and we had seen Jacobson come on for the All Blacks. We got to the 62nd minute of the game, and the All Blacks got another penalty opportunity that was within kicking range. Damien McKenzie got up and gave it a go, and he got this one over. So the All Blacks went from 15 points to 13 down to 16 points to 15 in the lead. Now, just after New Zealand had got that penalty kick over, Steve Borthwick made the decision to take Marcus Smith off the field. I didn't see whether he was injured at the time, and his namesake Finn Smith came on to finish the game for England. Now, I don't know whether this was around kicking duties and percentages and thinking that Finn Smith had a better record than Marcus Smith and he was going to get the English team home in this game if they did get a penalty opportunity within kicking range. But for me, that was a little bit of a strange decision. I thought Marcus Smith was definitely one of the players in the England team that could really make a difference. Now, it was around this time that Sapeni Finau went off the field of play. He had an HIA and he didn't pass it, so he didn't come back on the field. I thought he played pretty well for the All Blacks without being outstanding, but when it comes to that loose forward battle, I gave a win to England on that front yesterday. I just thought they were a step above the All Blacks, and they were really putting the pressure on, particularly in that first line of defence. They played absolutely outstanding, and I know a lot of you are going to say, yeah, but Ben Earl let the try in for the All Blacks. Yes, that was his mistake during the game, but elsewhere he was really big in the breakdowns and did a lot of great work off the ball for England as well. So I think that was just as important. Now, despite playing what I thought was a really good game up until the stage, Stephen Perifetta went off and the All Blacks brought on Beauden Barrett to play at number 15. And this whole selection around 10 and 15 for the All Blacks leading up to this game was pretty interesting. And there was no doubt that Barrett was going to come on with his experience in particular and to shore up that backfield for the All Blacks. I give Perifetta an 8 out of 10 for his performance. I think he did very well in the game, and probably a little bit unlucky to be taken off, but I think Robertson wanted to bring on that experience. At that stage of the game, Anton Leonard-Brown was brought on as well, and again, this was a decision I think based around defence. He's a very good defender, and with the game getting so close, the All Blacks were wanting to shore up that back line to make sure England didn't have any opportunities of getting through. So in the last 10 or 15 minutes, I thought this game was going to come down to a kicking contest. Whoever got a penalty within range was going to be able to win the game. It was 16-15 at that stage, and the next team to score was probably going to be the winner of this game. Then we got to the 77th minute, and something happened then that I've never seen happen for an All Black team before. Damien McKenzie got a penalty opportunity that would have put the game really out there for the All Blacks, and however, the clock wound down and the referee blew his whistle and stopped Damien McKenzie from taking the penalty because he had overtime on the clock. Very interesting situation, and something after the game that McKenzie was obviously very regretful for, and something that he took full accountability for, so he's going to have a look at that during the week. But that was the last opportunity for the All Blacks, but England got the ball, and they tried to run the ball and get down into the New Zealand half to try and secure at least a penalty kick where they could win the game from. But Tupou Vai got the ball for the All Blacks, got a turnover in the last second of the game, and that's how the game ended. So a very intense battle, the All Blacks coming out on top by 16 points to 15. But what did we learn from this game? Well, as I said in the beginning of this video, the All Blacks had been together for 10 days before this game. Scott Robertson and his whole team had come in and taken control of this All Black team, trying to start the change of culture and all the other things that happen when a new coaching team takes over. And that takes some time to bed in. The English were coming into this game riding a wave of momentum and good wins in previous outings, and they were coming in with a lot of self-belief, probably a lot more than this All Black team had, because they hadn't played since the Rugby World Cup last year in France. And with a number of new players in key positions in this All Black team, it was only going to be a given fact that it's going to take a little bit of time for this team to gel a little bit. And that's what we saw throughout this game. We saw a disconnected All Black team at different stages. We saw the communication, I feel, lacking a little bit at different stages of the game as well. And we just saw their ability in different positions not to be able to penetrate this English team. But a lot of the credit has to go down to England. They played extremely well in this game. Huge defense from England. The rush defense was up on the All Blacks, as I said earlier in the video. It was pressuring them into making decisions that were not correct, and were not able to get them on the front foot. So I thought that was really, really good work from the English team. On the other side, I thought England played really well in the forwards. George Martin again and Itoje played very well. They got a lot of good set piece ball. I thought Alex Mitchell did really, really well. And on the other side, I thought Finlay Christie, for me, I haven't ever liked Finlay Christie. And I'll tell you why I haven't liked Finlay Christie. I think he's too slow at the breakdown and the base of the rucks. He takes too long to get the ball out. I could see a number of times when he came on yesterday that his decision making was hesitant. He wasn't able to get the ball out distributed really, really fast. And if you look at someone like Jamison, Gibson, Park or Anton Dupont, they know exactly what they're going to do as soon as they get their hands on the ball. And for me, Christie isn't the answer. So the All Blacks need to look at halfback, and I would love to see Cortez Ratama come on for the All Blacks. So I think he's the player they need. He's got a lot of energy, he's dynamic, he's fast, he reads the play very, very well. And that's a switch I would make. If the result of this game, I think the All Blacks have got a few decisions to make. I think they've got to look at Damien McKenzie at number 10 and just decide whether or not he's the guy for that role. I think Beauden Barrett should probably get a start at number 10 in Auckland at Eden Park for the next test match. I just think he brings a quicker mindset when it comes to this level of rugby. And I would put D-Mac back on the bench and swap them over to see what, like they did this weekend with Beauden Barrett. So I'd switch those two around for next weekend. Perifetta, I think, deserves to be there. He played very well. Being on his own patch in Eden Park next weekend will do a lot for his confidence. So I'd leave him there and give him another run. And then heading off to Fiji, take him and play there as well. So then he's had 3 big games in that All Black fullback jersey, and we'll really see what his level is like. As far as some of the other decisions around the All Blacks, I think Jacobson did all right when he came on. Finau was good. But again, the All Black forwards at that back 3, they didn't dominate England in this game. And that's something they'll have to have a look at. And I thought Savera at times was puffing a little bit, as well as the energy levels. So that's something maybe the All Blacks have come into this game. They weren't really match prepared at this level. You can do all the training you want in the world, but when you bring it on to match day, you have to be up there. And I think the All Blacks will be a lot better because of this run as a result of that as well. I don't think the All Blacks had the dominance in the front row that they were expecting to have. Asafa Amua did really, really well when he came on in the second half, and you could see the impact that he was having for the All Black team. So he's a really, really good one to bring off the bench for that impact player. But kudos to England for sure in the front row. They did better than I expected them to do, and in the scrums in general, I think England did better than I expected them to do. So I think Steve Borthwick and his team will be very, very happy with that outcome of this game. Then the back 3 of England need a mention as well, because I thought Freeman, when he got involved in the play, looked very, very good, as did Fa'i Wabaso. He's an extremely good player. I like this guy. He's a game changer as well. He's in the Sevu Reece kind of Mark Talia mould. He can break a game open, and he's also very, very good in defence. And we saw George Furbank do some really good stuff in this game. He brought the ball back really well from the back line when he got kicks deep, but he was also in there contesting with the ball, and he made a couple of good line breaks as well. So great performance for Furbank for England in this game. So in summary of this game, it was a brilliant test match rugby game. Hard, tough, intense. It kept with the tradition between these two teams that there's not many points in the game, and one of the teams can come out as a winner after a very, very close battle. On this occasion, it was New Zealand. I know that all the England fans and the English media are saying this is a game that got away from England. Well, maybe so, but given the fact the All Blacks had only been together for 10 days, I think this was an exceptional game for the All Blacks to stay in the game, in a tight finish and emotionally get themselves over the line. And as a result of that, I think the All Blacks are going to be much better for this run and be able to turn things around at Eden Park. I think there's going to be a lot of selection discussions from Scott Robertson and his team, and now that they've actually seen this team play under test match conditions for the first time under their leadership, I think that's a great thing, and it's going to give them an opportunity to do a good analysis to see what team they're going to select for next weekend. For England, I think the belief is even going to become stronger now. They ran the All Blacks very close in this game. They were immense across the field. I wouldn't be making any changes to this England team. I think they've got the right team on the pitch. They just need to be a little bit more clinical, and maybe a little bit of areas around discipline let them down as well in this particular game, so the All Blacks were able to score those penalty kicks. But there's nothing in it between these two teams, and I think heading into Eden Park next weekend, the fortress of New Zealand rugby, we can all look forward to another cracker game between these two teams. So there we go, that's my reaction video to this first test match between England and New Zealand for the series down under. It was a fantastic game of rugby. I'm still got the shakes a little bit because it was so good, and I can't wait for that game next weekend. Now don't forget to check out my other videos on the big games that were played this weekend. I'm in the process of posting those for you here. We have South Africa against Ireland, and boy, what a game that was. And we have Australia against Wales as well, so make sure you check out those videos when I post them. I like doing them a day after the game so I can reflect a little bit more on the games, maybe think about the things that I pick up on that I wouldn't have done if I do videos straight after the games. Plus, it was 3 a.m. in the morning here in Cancun as well, so I wanted to get a little bit of sleep. But I'll be back again really soon. I hope you like my content. If you do, hit the subscribe button, give this video a bit of a thumbs up. If you're an All Blacks fan, you can be very proud of the performance they got across the line. But if you're an English fan, you can also be very proud. That was a fantastic game of rugby by your team, and you did your country proud. So I look forward to the next battle, and I'm sure it's going to be that at Eden Park next weekend. Okay, until the next video, take care everybody. I'll see you again really soon. It's time to say adios from beautiful Cancun in Mexico.